Hey, this is Cheryl back with you from Farmhouse, Frugally, and today I am collaborating in the June What Would You Make? And I have these wooden items, some of which I have no idea what they actually are, and I am going to use them to create something awesome for my own home. So I am going to start with this typical ugly heart-shaped edged wooden crate box that we used to see all the time in the 80s, and somebody had attempted to dress it up with their own style of paint or stenciling, and I am going to go ahead and paint over that. And luckily that was not raised, so I did not have to sand it first. I was able to just go ahead and paint right over. Now I'm just using a green color that is in my stash from a previous project, and this happens to be a latex paint, so it does already have the top coat built into it, which is perfect for this application, so that I am going to have this be somewhat weatherproof. Now I am going to leave the interior natural because I do really like the color and I like the natural wood of it, and I'm actually not going to fill the holes or take away the heart shape. Sometimes I do that with a filler or put something else over that, but in this particular case I'm okay with it. I do, however, need to give this 2 full coats of paint so that this will be fully covered. Now, before I finish these DIYs, let me remind you that today is an open collaboration, What Would You Make?, which is monthly, and it is hosted by Brenda at Rustic and Lace and Christine at the DIY Craftaholic. And this month they have a guest host, new to me, Glue Layla. So if you would check out their channels as well as the playlist of everyone who has joined into this collaboration, it can be found in my description box. Now that takes me back onto this box. Once that is completely dry, I just took my finger sander and just sanded around primarily the edges to bring back the wood, which is just the rustic look that I prefer. That is a step you can skip if you don't like that, but it also helps to clean up any over painting on the wooden edges. So once I had that completely distressed, I am pulling out these things in my stash and I have no idea what they are. So if you have an idea, I would love to know. I got these on the good table at the dump, and I absolutely have no clue whether they were part of a game or whether they have some kind of a function that I have no idea about. But if you know, let me know. And I thought that they would be perfect for what I was going to do for the rest of this DIY. So I am starting by taking my crocodile, and I am taking some tongue depressors, and I am just using that. The blade is a little dull on this one, so it takes me a little bit to go back and forth and to snap off the ends of these, and then to cut them each in half so that I can glue them over the holes on these, which look like a little bit of a wooden fly swatter to me. So I am just going to glue those over that until I have a nice flat surface. Several months ago, I had purchased a bunch of decoupage napkins off of a website I can't think of. If I can think of it, I'll put it in the description box. And I am just using some that have some herbal plants on them, and I am just going to cut those and get the 1-ply and then go ahead and decoupage them directly on to the wood. Now I could have painted these white to make them pop a little bit. They do look a little rustic when done, but if you like them to be nice and sharp, you want to paint white behind either the napkin or behind the product, the wood piece itself. And I just went ahead and did that for rosemary and basil and thyme, just taking some decoupage medium. I'm just using Mod Podge here and Mod Podging that napkin on. I had cut the little name of the herb off separately so that I could put that on right where I wanted it to be for each of the 3 of these. And then once these 3 are dry, then I did decoupage over the top of the whole thing just to seal that all together and keep that on. And then once that was finished, I took a little bit of antiquing wax, went around primarily the outside edge to give these more of a vintage look, as well as the wooden stick portion of these little, whatever they are, that I am calling herb markers at this point. And I did use the finger sander on those first to go ahead and get the remainder of the napkin off and give that a nice smooth finish. So then once I have that done and the antique wax on there, just the way that I like it, back to the box, which was now completely dried and sanded on the edges, and I used that same antiquing wax to darken up that green, making it look a little less bright and a little more vintage, just to go with my style, as well as popping the woods that I had sanded down too. And then once I had that looking the way that I wanted it, then I was ready to move on. Many years ago, when I had my primitive country shop, I had purchased a bunch of these sweet little tags that you could use for a number of things. They said things like homespun and antiques and other things on them. And so I did have a couple of those left over, and I decided to go ahead and take one of them and paint over with just a cream colored paint. I think this was linen, and a little bit of baking soda mixed in, pouncing that on with a bit of a rough texture to cover those words because they're a little crackled and a little raised. So I gave that a few coats until I had the word completely covered, cleaned up the edges, and then once I had that the way that I wanted it, I pulled out an ink pad and I pulled out the letter stamps that I had picked up at an antique store earlier in this year, and I just went ahead and stamped on that the word herbs. I got some of those little peat pots and some soil and some of the herbs that I had outside, and I went ahead and potted those up and added the markers and put it all together in the box. And I think that it is absolutely so sweet. I did not purchase any of these items. This was entirely free to me, except for the herbs, which some I had in the ground, and 1 or 2 I had already purchased. So this was a very inexpensive, sweet way to come up with a little herb planter that I can put outside on my deck or on my windowsill in my kitchen and use these herbs whenever I would like. So I would love to know what you think about these sweet little wooden projects today, and if this has given you any kind of an inspiration to add some touches to one of these pretty old-fashioned wooden boxes that you might have laying around your home. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't. I have a number of great things coming up for you. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.